Looks like we're pretty much there. So thanks everybody for this is the most punctual group as well as the largest group that we've had so far for one of these. Hardly anybody in the waiting room 2 minutes in. So thanks everybody for joining us for this month's Zoomin Lumens with ETC and City Theatrical, talking about the multiverse and how it integrates into control systems and fixtures. And we're excited to be able to do this. Personally, I love doing double presentations because I think it's one of the cool things that we get to offer as Barbizon, as we get to bring manufacturers together and have them talk about how their systems complement each other, which isn't something that you get to see too often. So we're going to start with ETC today. Jim with ETC is going to give us a quick beginning. So if you have questions during all this, again, please feel free to just drop them in the chat. We'll have folks answering them there. I'll also bring them up to the presenters as we go. And there will be time at the end for a live Q&A, so I can, we'll unmute you, turn camera on, and you can ask a question directly to the presenters at that time. But for right now, I'll just go ahead and pass it over to Jim.
All right. Thank you very much. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jim Uphoff. I'm the Entertainment Luminaires product manager at ETC. So these fixtures that we're going to be talking about today are under my purview, and so I'm going to give you a quick little demo. I offer, if anybody needs a closer look at these, we can book online demos in this space with somebody one-on-one. You can go to our website, which is etcconnect.com, and book that and get a much more in-depth session with us, and we're happy to do that at your convenience. But there's a lot to cover, so I'm going to do just a condensed version of it, and there's going to be some resources for longer versions of and more in-depth demos of these available as well, which I think we'll be talking about later. But for those of you who didn't see, last week we launched 2 new products for ETC, 2 new LED luminaires, one of which is right here, which is the Series 3. Hiding behind it here is the Desire for Nell. And it fits in really nicely with today's topic, which is City Theatrical's Multiverse, because like the Phosphor products we launched last year, we have included City Theatrical's Multiverse built into all of these fixtures as standard, and for a lot of great reasons. And you're going to see what those reasons are here in the second half of this. So I'm just going to talk about these fixtures specifically because we do think these are big fixtures for ETC. We hope they're big fixtures for the industry as a whole, which means lots more multiverse radios out in the world. And so it's going to be good to understand what those are, why we went with multiverse, and what that adds to systems, because and what it adds to the functionality of these great fixtures. So for those of you that didn't see what we announced last week, you're looking at it right now. 2 new fixtures for ETC based on a lot of the work that we did with the Phosphor product line. We did one of these sessions with Barbizon about the Phosphor products and some of the technologies that went into them, and we're now carrying a lot of that into both the Series 3 and the Desire for Nell. Source 4 is iconic. It has been for almost 30 years now, and we've seen lots of different generations of that, whether it's been in the different lamps, different bodies, styles and shapes, ultimately getting to our addition of the Celador product line at ETC, which led to Desire and then Source 4 LED. And now we're on our 3rd generation of Source 4 LED. We've tried to just update these products as we felt the technology had reached certain milestones, not just iterative, annual updates. We wanted to wait from Series 1 to Series 2 with the addition of the Lime LED that did such great things for brightness and for color mixing, the way it just accentuated and pulled together all the other colors that were being used in the at the time X7 array. To make really great strides in that direction, but it was basically the same fixture with different guts on the inside to make improvements. With Series 3, we have a whole new ground up redesign of the fixture, including the housing, the software, the user interface, a lot of the technologies in it, and in this case, a new optical system as well. So I'm gonna start by giving you just a quick little tour. I have a GoPro camera here. We'll do a quick walk around of what I'm talking about. Again, there's a lot of resources available on our website about this, a lot of videos from launch day that you can go back and watch the videos that we put up last week to give you some more information on this. But again, you can always book a demo with us as well. So as we look here at the fixture, first of all, you're going to notice a brand new user interface. This is a carryover from the work that we did for the Phosphor line. The user interface has given us a lot of good feedback from customers about its how intuitive it is, how quickly you can just walk up to a fixture, even if you haven't used it before, and understand how to operate and configure that fixture very quickly. You'll notice that the encoders are RGB backlit. That's so that they can correspond to what's on the screen, again, helping with that learning curve. Green corresponds to green, blue to blue, red to red, that sort of thing. So great new user interface that'll allow customers to interact in a really nice way with the fixture. We've added a locking switch to lock that user interface out so you don't accidentally make changes to it when that position is in the lock position. USB port for all things USB, software updates, configuration sharing, diagnostics file, downloads, things like that. And then if we come down here, you'll see that we have the City Theatrical Multiverse antenna here. This is what allows us to take advantage of that. And obviously you'll see more about that later. This does remove. So if you're concerned about shipping it with this in position, we have a little mount here on the yoke so you can snap that off and go and ship it and store it accordingly. There's an NFC tag under here. You can see NFC stands for near field communication. And I'm going to show you what that how we're implementing that in these fixtures here in just a moment, but just know that that's where the NFC tag lives on this. And then one of the redesigns that we had was to move the connectors to the top, understanding that these fixtures are very often hung from underneath. This will allow you to get really nice clean cable runs up to the pipe or the grid without having big swags of cable hanging in front of the user interface. It's just a design consideration that was implemented for this product. As we look at the profile here, you'll notice a really striking design. The team did a really nice job on this. It looks like a professional grade fixture, and it is exactly that. I mentioned a new optical system. We have designed a new optical system for use with really all of our LED fixtures. And I should mention they are intended just for use with LED fixtures. They should not be used with incandescent. But this is the new XDLT. So we have standard lens tubes. We have the EDLT lens tubes that were developed probably close to 15 years ago. And now we have XDLT, which is the next generation of optics. It was required for us because of a number of characteristics of the LED engine that we're using for Series 3 in order to get as much light output as we could. But I should note that you can use Series 3 with all existing lens tubes, standard lens tubes, EDLTs, even the adapters, the Psych adapter and the Fresnel adapter will work with Series 3. But if you want the highest level of performance, especially, and this is important, especially in the lower beam angles, 5 degree, 10 degree, 14 degree, and 19 degree. If you don't use XDLT lenses, if you use standard or EDLT lenses, you will not see any gains in output over a Series 2 light engine. But with the XDLT, in those beam angles, you will see 40% increases on average of light output. And with the standard, the other sizes, the 26, 36, 50, and 70, you will get a little bit of an increase in brightness, not a huge gain, but you will also get the other features that I want to mention, which first of all are color corrective lenses. We've added a color corrective lens to the 14, 19, 26, and 36 degree lens tubes, which give you not only higher contrast for better imaging, but will also almost completely remove the chromatic aberration that you see around the outside edge of the beam. And we'll take a look at that in just a moment here when we put the light on the wall. We've also taken some design considerations for light leak. So one of the things you may notice when you see these for the first time is that the shutter blades are much thinner, so they allow for much easier movement, but also it allows us to now sandwich in some material on both sides of those shutter blades to prevent light leak. And then we've also boxed in the front accessory slot, so we no longer have big gaps between the lens and the accessories to keep the light just where you want it, which is headed to the wall or the stage. We have an accessory slot compartment on the top that you can open up. It gives you the two accessories, and then that obviously just nice and easily shuts. And now I'm going to turn off the lights here. I've turned the fixture on. You can see now that the light is on, but the light leak is almost completely reduced. There's a tiny little bit still around the shutter blades, which is unavoidable, but for the most part, if you compare that to an existing fixture with the standard optical system, you'll see that that light leak has been significantly reduced. So just another advantage that we were able to take now that we have designed these for specifically LEDs. Again, because of that, the materials that are in there to prevent light leak, these are not, the XDLT should not be used with incandescent fixtures. As I move around now to the Desire Fresnel, you will see again, if you are familiar with the phosphor products that we talked about before, last year we released a 7-inch phosphor Fresnel. And at the same time that we were doing that development, we were starting to have conversations about Desire needing to get updated. It's a great fixture, continues to be a great fixture for a lot of customers, but there's a lot of technologies and a lot of advancements that we've made as a company with the work that we're doing in LEDs that we wanted to see brought into the Desire line. And we were at the same time falling in love with the work we were doing with the phosphor Fresnel. It was creating a really great fixture that we felt had a lot of application in the live entertainment market. We just needed to get the price down so it could be more affordable for those sorts of venues. And so we set about taking the work we had done with the phosphor Fresnel and making it a Desire Fresnel. So a couple things that we did to lower the cost: we removed the DC battery input that the phosphor Fresnel has, so that this is just standard PowerCon True 1 in and through. We put a smaller power supply, not a lower quality, but just a smaller power supply that was less expensive. So the brightness is not quite there compared to the phosphor. It's about 80% the output of the phosphor Fresnel, but it's still about 5,900 lumens on the wall, which is about 50% brighter than a D60. So you're getting a 50% increase in brightness, making those changes, and also a manufacturing streamlining by only offering it in the Luster X8. So we'll talk about the arrays here in just a second, but the Desire Fresnel is only available in the Luster X8. If you want the new Daylight HDR, you'd want to look at the phosphor product. But by doing these changes, we've been able to lower the cost of the Desire Fresnel down to about the same price point as a D60. But now you're getting 50% more output. You're getting this beautiful Luster X8 array, all of the technologies and user interface and software and things that we've talked about on Source 4 LED and the phosphor line, but in a Fresnel that has, you know, it's a Fresnel, so it's got zoom. It's got a 13 to 55 degree zoom range that is accessible from the front or the back. So the hang position shouldn't matter. You should be able to reach one of those two at any given moment. And this gorgeous 7-inch glass Fresnel optic that just fills with homogenized light. Unlike the Desire line previously, where you had all sorts of different, we call the Skittle effect or the jelly bean effect, where you have all the different colors across the front. You get a beautiful homogenized solid color of light coming out, filling up this gorgeous optic. And then again, accessory slots on the front for barn doors and color frames and things like that, or diffusion if you want that, that can be accessed from either the top or the bottom. Now, I mentioned the arrays. Again, the X8 array, we've added another color. So when we went from the previous generation, which was the Celador system, which was a 7-color system, that was the X7 system. We've now added a new color. Series 1 to Series 2 added lime. Now from Series 2 to Series 3, we're taking that 7-color system. We're adding an 8th color, which is deep red. We made a big marketing push with this deep red with the phosphor line, and for all the things that it was capable of doing, and it was really important for us to get that now into these fixtures as well. This deep red is really important when we talk about quality of light. Obviously, adding another color, this deeper wavelength, 660 nanometer wavelength, will expand your gamut, so you can get to colors you were not able to get to before. But more importantly is what it does for color mixing in general, for being able to add that to colors you were making previously that just lacked something that you used to get from tungsten or traditional sources. As human beings, we see color in certain ways. We have evolved to see certain types of light, from firelight to gas light eventually, and then to tungsten, and the deep red wavelength, that 660 nanometer wavelength, we actually call it the tungsten tail. It's that last bit of visible light that the human eye can see before it falls off into the infrared. And it's really important, and it's in abundance in those sources I mentioned before, specifically things like tungsten. And it's what adds that sort of natural vibrance to skin tones and costumes and things like that that we are really accustomed to seeing and we really prefer to see. So having that ingredient in the light gives you a better light, gives you better white light, gives you better pastels. It doesn't matter if I'm dealing with actually mixing deep reds. It's about adding that deep red wavelength to the colors that you're traditionally using to make them better and make them more natural and healthy looking. So that deep red LED has been added to this new Luster X8 array that is available in both of these fixtures, as well as the phosphor products. And it's also in the new Daylight HDR array, which is a carry over from the Daylight HD array of Series 2, which was a 4-color system. Now it's a 6-color system. We've added cyan to it, which is a color we've found to be very important in mixing good quality white light, as well as this deep red that's in that Daylight HDR array. That Daylight HDR array is available in the Series 3. It is not available in the Desire, but it is available in the phosphor products as well. I'm not going to spend really much time talking about the different software modes. I will just show you really quickly, again, going back to the little portable camera. There are a number of different modes that take advantage of this nice user interface, this screen, from studio modes that allow you to set colors of white light, to color mixing modes that allow you to use the great color screen to get crosshairs, whether you are interested in mixing via XY coordinate or just using HSI and the HSI color space. So we've taken a lot of consideration into making that a really usable experience. I'm going to show you really quickly, if I can, I'm going to turn this here so we can see the user interface. I want to show you the NFC implementation, because that's a really important feature to this, we feel, and we've found here at ETC, because we use it personally all the time. I'm going to bring my iPhone up here on the screen, and hopefully you can see that. So we created an app. Now this app works with the Multiverse hardware as well, and you'll see that later, I'm sure, when Harrison's talking about that. But the base station has Bluetooth built in, and so we are able to access the Multiverse base station via Bluetooth and this Setlight app that we have developed that'll allow you to connect to the base station and do configuration of these fixtures remotely from your mobile device. And this is available on Android or iOS. But if you don't have the base station, or you're not using Multiverse and you want to be able to configure these fixtures in a more convenient way from your phone, the same Setlight app, which is free, by the way, has NFC capabilities built in. And so NFC is in most mobile devices. It's what allows Apple Pay and Samsung Pay and Google Wallet and all those services to work. And up in the corner, we have an NFC menu. There's a number of different options here. I'm going to just say pull configuration. And all I have to do is tap my phone on the back of the fixture, and now I've pulled the configuration out. Once I've done that, I can rename it. I can set the address. I can change my operation mode. Multiverse settings are in here as well. I'm just going to change my timeout to 1 minute, hit push, tap on the back of the fixture again, and within a split second, that configuration you can see on the screen, NFC received, that configuration has been stored in the fixture. This is a really great tool. It's not just a gimmick. A lot of times you get an app and you try it out and you go, yeah, I made it work. Look what I can do for my phone. And then you just put it in your pocket and you don't use it again. This is now the default way in which most employees here, that when I see them, this is the way we interact with the fixture when we can. The configuration is so simple. It's so intuitive. You have the phone in your pocket. It's just a really nice, satisfying way to interact with these fixtures. As great as the user interface is, this is just a really great way to interface. And it has some other advantages, one of which I'll show you right now, which is it does not require the fixture to even be powered. So I'm going to unplug the power cable here. And I'm going to change my settings back. I'm going to change it back to never timeout, push configuration, tap the back of the fixture. I get the same response, success. And now when I power the fixture back up for the first time after that, if you watch the display, first thing you'll see is NFC received. The technology itself, it uses such little power that it uses the wireless power from your phone, of the wireless signal from your phone, to actually store the data into the chip, and then waits for the fixture to be energized to implement those changes. This is great if you have a for a rental shop. If you've got fixtures coming in off the road, you want to set factory defaults. You don't even have to take the fixture out of the case. You can just tap the back of the fixture. As long as you can reach this user interface section, you're going to be able to tap the back of the fixture and make those changes very quickly and simply. Or commissioning a site where the generator hasn't been turned on yet, you're going to be able to go down the line and configure all your fixtures, and then just wait for the power to come on, and you're going to be set to go. Let's take a quick look. I know I just have a couple of minutes left at the fixture on the wall. I'm going to switch my camera here to the wall and put a nice white light up here. Let's go here. First thing, hopefully you're noticing, as the camera balances, is the edge of the beam, that chromatic aberration that I mentioned before. I'm about 20 feet away with a 36-degree XDLT lens tube, one of the new lens tubes that has that color correction in it. And you'll notice that the edge of the beam does not have that big blue halo around it like you traditionally would see with the other lens tubes. That's where that color corrective lens comes into play. These really nice shutters, let me turn my picture on so you can see. Really simple to make these shutter cuts. They move really silky smooth movement. They stay where they're supposed to be. I can very quickly just take my shutter cuts down on this, and because this is the X8 engine, of course, I can get to any color you can imagine with the touch of a touch screen or an encoder. You can very quickly step through all of those. If we switch over now to the Desire Fresnel, I'm going to switch back to the GoPro just because it gives us a nice angle on this. I'm about the same distance away. Let me get a little more appealing color here instead of that greenish. I'm about the same distance away, so about 20 feet from the wall. I'm in full flood. You can see the whole half of the studio is lit up here. As I zoom in now, you're going to see that nice tight spot come down on the wall. Again, beautiful Fresnel beam, nice soft edges, but a clear, crisp borders to where that light is. And all of that's available, obviously, with the nice, just the turn of this knob to get that optic in and out. But a Fresnel is also really as good as its barn dooring, and that has to do with how the shadows work. So I'm going to do something that's really difficult for an additive color mixing multi-source fixture like an LED fixture like this, and that's put my hand right in front of the optic, right? And then look at the shadow. I'm not getting color separation. I'm not getting multiple hands on the wall. I'm just getting this big, soft, blobby shadow, which is what you would expect when you've got your source this close to the item that you're lighting. And now if I switch back to the white wall camera, you will see that as I get farther and farther away from it, that shadow just tightens up. I get just beautiful edges, no color separation, no fringing, no multiple shadows, just a beautiful single, acting like a single source Fresnel, which is what you would want when you're using this type of fixture. And that's what leads to really great barn door performance. Now, barn door performance can be a little bit subjective, people wanting softer edges or harder edges, but this fixture to me does exactly what you would want it to do, which is give you that perfect balance of a nice hot spot over here where you would want in the center, falling off gradually until you get to that last 15% or so of the beam where it falls off a little more dramatically, but then that really clean, clear cut edge that allows you to control this light, to control this beautiful wash light, unlike you can do with PARs and other types of fixtures. There's just something about a Fresnel and a Fresnel optic and barn dooring that's just really unique to this type of fixture. And I think we've done a really nice job at creating that in an LED fixture that takes the best of both worlds. It's a great Fresnel that also just happens to be an LED source and therefore can take advantage of all of this beautiful array, the beautiful punch of light, really bright fixtures, and really controllable beam, which is, I can tell you, having gone through the development process, is not an easy thing to do, but I think we've done it really well, and we're really excited to see people use these because I think it's going to become a favorite for a lot of people. So that's my time. There's a lot to talk about. I could talk for hours. You probably heard me talk for hours, some of you before. I'm happy to do it. I ask you again, if you're interested to book a demo with us in this space, we're happy to meet with you and go over anything you'd like to see with these products or many of the other products that we're able to offer. But now I'm really excited to hear a little more about City Theatrical's Multiverse and why we implemented it in these great products.
Thanks, Jim. So yeah, I will say Barbizon did a longer version of the Series 3 and Desire demos earlier today. So we have a video posted that is in the chat, I believe, the link to that. So if you want some more technical information about those fixtures, that's a great place to start. And then of course you can also reach out to us, put questions in the chat, however you would like to do it. I will now hand it over to Harrison to talk a little bit about Multiverse in general. Again, if you have any questions over the course of the presentation, please do put them in chat to everyone. We've got some folks answering those questions, and then also I'll give those questions to the presenters as time allows. So thank you very much. And
hello, everyone. Thank you, Ned. Thank you, Jim. It's a great job as always, Jim. You've really perfected the video presentation in this. What I'm going to cover today is a bit about Multiverse, the technology, some of the gear that goes along with it in order to fully round out your lighting system. If you start putting in the Series 3 and the Desire fixtures, there are other devices out there that you might need to integrate with in order to have a full lighting rig. And Multiverse is able to come along and do all of that. Any of the things that we cover today, we have a full-length webinar on, whether that's the transmitter, the nodes, the receivers, the dimmers. They're all on our YouTube page, so those can get followed up. And as well as ETC, you can schedule a individual demo with us on our Multiverse pages. A little calendar application. You select when you want to do it, what day, and someone will be able to hop on a Zoom and do a product demo with you. So I'm going to share my screen here for a little presentation, and it'll sort of help round out this this Multiverse family. So we're going to cover the Multiverse Studio just because it has a lot of the products, but the family as a whole is quite large. So starting over on the well, I hope it's the left of your screen. I don't know if it's reversed or not. Anyways, the left of your screen, that's the Multiverse module. That's what's going to be inside of a lighting fixture. That is what is built into the Series 3 fixtures and the Desire for now. The next is a receiver card. That is a very small device that anyone that has soldering skills can use. If you want to add wireless to a DMX device, it has DMX outputs, 0 to 10 outputs, as well as a PWM outputs. And it has the wireless radio built in, and all of the electrical engineering involved of implementing a small radio has been done with that receiver card. The next two devices are low voltage dimmers. So if you need to have props that are wirelessly controlled, maybe a lantern or maybe a costume, these would be the devices meant to do that. The first, the very small one that looks like a stick of gum, that one is a 2-channel dimmer, 2.5 amps per channel. The next is a 5-channel dimmer, which is also 2.5 amps per channel. Moving on, we have the radio scan. We'll get a little bit deeper into that in this presentation, but the radio scan is a spectrum analyzer. It allows you to make sure that the system you are about to turn on and set up in your space is going to work in the wireless world that we operate in. Next is the award-winning DMX Cat and the DMX Cat app, which as Jim mentioned, integrates with the Multiverse system, can control the fixtures. You can also use a Setlight app with your DMX Cat dongle or the Multiverse transmitter. And this is really the best way to change settings in your fixtures, control them, troubleshoot them, and test them and make sure that everything's up and running correctly. Next is the Multiverse Studio that is geared toward the TV and film world. It has a battery, has a 5-pin XLR connector on board. So you plug it in, turn it on, now you've got a wireless fixture. It doesn't take very much to get it up and running. Next is the Show Baby. Most people in this industry have seen the Show Baby before. Used to be orange, now it's black. It is a plug and play, simple to use wireless DMX system. Can be used with any of the Multiverse systems. Can also be used with any previous Show Babies, which is very nice. So we do have that backwards compatibility if you do already have Show Babies in your rig. Next is the Multiverse Node. It's very similar to the Show Baby. It's a single universe dual band transceiver. So it can transmit and receive on 2.4 gigahertz or 900 megahertz. And then finally, we have the Multiverse transmitter. which is going to be the base station for a larger multiverse system. And then we have the Multiverse Vero, which is going to be an outdoor version of the Multiverse Node, in case you have any permanent outdoor installations that need to be outdoor rated, and you have to be able to get wireless. Very useful, especially if you're talking about getting stuff over a lake, over a river, a road, between two buildings. Multiverse Vero is great for that. So Jim mentioned why we were going to cover why they picked Multiverse. Multiverse has quite a few breakthrough technologies in it. And honestly, the most important is we're able to get more DMX data with less radio energy. There was one fatal flaw with all wireless DMX before Multiverse. Anyone's, ours, other manufacturers. It was when we wanted to scale up our system, we had to put down another transmitter, which has another radio in it, which produces more radio energy. And as we kept doing that, it would just collapse the spectrum down on itself and prevent us from actually growing the system. So we had to regulate it and maybe only use it in absolutely necessary situations. Now with Multiverse, we are able to grow it much, much bigger. So we started with a clean sheet of paper when we started to design Multiverse. We said, if we brought wireless DMX to the world from the ground up, what would we do? We said we wanted to reduce our radio energy, and how we did that was by implementing a technology called MDMX, or Multiverse DMX. It's an encapsulation of the DMX 512 standard, and what it does is it only sends necessary data. So in an extreme situation, let's say there's a presentation that's going to happen. Your presenter is going to present for an hour. So 5-second fade, the lights come up on your presenter at the podium. They give their hour-long presentation. 5-second fade down. When they're done, there it is. Now, in that span time, around 158,000 DMX packets went out and nothing changed. Your lights turned on, they did nothing, and they turned off. But that DMX data is still going out because that's how the DMX protocol works. Multiverse doesn't do that. It only sends the changes when they are necessary. So it sends out the data at the beginning with your 5-second fade, sends it out and checks it throughout to make sure that everything is good, refreshes it if needed. And then at the end, it would send the full universe of change that you are doing. So at any time, you can either have a lot of data moving because you do have a large queue moving, or not very much data at all. And in that extreme situation, that produces a reduction of around 98% in radio energy. Now, when we started doing averages, talking with some Broadway designers and professionals and electricians about how much data was being used through queuing and changing that sort of stuff, we found that an average, you're going to see around an 80% reduction in radio energy. And that is at 5 universes of DMX, not just 1 universe of DMX. That is how we're able to grow our DMX system. Now, we are also able to use another band of transmission. So we do our 5 universes of DMX in 2.4, but at the same time, we can be running 4 more universes in the 900 megahertz spectrum. So that's actually quite neat that we can have a dual band transmission, because they're not going to interfere with each other. 2.4 gigahertz in one area, 900 megahertz in the other. There are some advantages with 900 megahertz. It's going to have a better pass-through ability. So not that you don't need to have line of sight, but if there are obstructions, it is much more likely that it will pass through them and not have any problems with that. It also has a better range as well. So there are a few benefits of going 900 over 2.4. So you can pick and choose which is best. Now, we've already perfected the DMX standard. We needed to beef up the RDM standard as well. For those that don't know, RDM stands for Remote Device Management, which allows us to, from a console or an RDM controller, get information from our fixtures. We can also send information to our fixtures. So we can tell them to be a different address, to be a different profile remotely, without having to get up onto a ladder, get out the lift to go up to the electric and change the settings. The only issue with RDM was it would stop DMX in order to send and receive its signals back. which is fine when you're doing setups. But if you're needing to get any information, whether that's radio signal, battery, temperatures of LEDs during the middle of a show, you couldn't do that because your DMX would stop sending, and we can't stop sending DMX. So we came up with MRDM, Multiverse RDM, which can run simultaneously with DMX without any interruption. So you can be in the middle of your show, queuing, most complex queue that you have, and maybe you have a fixture that's malfunctioning. You want to see if there's an error code via RDM. You can pull it up, you can ping it, you can get the information from it and see what is wrong with it. And then at that point, maybe you need to disable it. Maybe you need to turn it off. You can park it at 0, park it at whatever level you need, but then you're able to see that information in the middle of the show without interrupting your DMX stream. It's quite a big technology breakthrough that we had there, because now it makes RDM more useful than it already was. It moves from just being a troubleshooting and setup protocol to a full system watch protocol. The next breakthrough technology is forward error correction. So we're sending out a lot of data. We want to make sure that everything that we send out is correct. So once it gets to the receiver, it can be confirmed with forward error correction that it is correct before it sends out to your fixtures. This is done because the protocol that we're using is much faster than what DMX moves at. So we're able to get that information confirmed before it continues on to the fixtures. The next is show key security and also pin security. So show key security is built into the show ID. Show ID tells us where in our spectrum we're going to be. We'll touch on that in a little bit, but then we can also add a show key to that, so that if you are maybe in a venue where there's a couple of theater spaces, or maybe you're on a studio lot and there's a couple of studios next to you that might also be running Multiverse, if they're on the same show ID, you could have some interaction and some interruption. You add the show key, and that will allow you to add another layer of security so that they won't interact with your system. Pin security is built into the Multiverse transmitter. It's so that you can lock out other users from the DMX cat feature of the Multiverse transmitter, which we'll touch on shortly. Next is ultra low latency. We're down at 4 milliseconds, so you're not going to be seeing any interruption with that. And then finally is our user selectable adaptive sped spectrum frequency hopping, which allows you to finely tune your system to put your radio signal exactly where you want it. And that is very important, especially if there's other people around you using 2.4, whether that's a camera on set or automation or sound when you are in a theater. So now that we've learned a little bit about the technology, let's look at some of the gear. So I'm going to change over here. So we're going to take a look at the Multiverse Studio Kit here, mainly because it has most of the devices that you're going to use to build out your system. So we'll first start here with the Multiverse transmitter. So as you can see, there are actually 4 antennas on this transmitter. It means there's 4 radios in it. So first is our 900 megahertz radio on this, again, 4 universes. 2.4 gigahertz, which allows 5 universes. So this is actually a 9 universe device here. We also have a Wi-Fi access point. This allows you to use apps like Luminaire or Blackout to control your lighting system if you don't want to use a full lighting console. And then also a Bluetooth radio. This Bluetooth radio, there's actually a DMX cat built into the Multiverse transmitter. So you can connect to it with either your Setlight app or your DMX cat app and control any of the settings in the Multiverse transmitter or any of the settings of fixtures downline of your receivers, whether they are built-in receivers, like if you're controlling a Luster 3, or other fixtures that might not have wireless built in. Now, if you don't have wireless built in, what do you need to do? That's when a Multiverse Node, Multiverse Show or a Multiverse Studio come in handy. So in this kit, the Multiverse Node comes with this clamp. It is a single universe transceiver. So we have our DMX in, DMX out. It can receive or transmit. It is dual band, so it can do 2.4 gigahertz or 900 megahertz. It's great for smaller setups where you might need to be able to have that flexibility. It is also great for a larger setup as the receiver to the Multiverse system. Now, also in this kit, the studio receiver, that is the receiver that is, like I said, geared toward the studio market. These do have a battery, so they can be turned on remotely. You don't have to have them plugged into anything, though if you want to, you can. You can plug, turn it on, start transmitting to it, plug it into your fixture, and it's good to go. Now, in this kit, you do get a slight advantage. You are able to charge them in this kit. So those that do work in the TV and film world will see an advantage in this. There's a lot more run and gun style of let's get things set up, let's run it for a little bit, let's pull it back down. They're not needing a permanent install usage of the Multiverse Node. The studio allows that functionality. It does, like I said, have wireless charging. So you just drop it in once you plug the case in and it'll charge. Very streamlined, easy to use system. This whole kit makes everything a little bit easier as well because it's all built in right there. Sorry, I tipped up my clock. I need to check my time. We're still good. So in this kit, we decided that it was necessary to have the radio scan and the DMX cat in this kit because without them, we believe you're not able to set up your entire system as well as it can be. And these allow you to make sure that your system's going to be rock solid. So the radio scan, as I mentioned, is a spectrum analyzer. And the DMX cat, I hope most people know about that, is the Bluetooth dongle that we use to control, analyze, and test our lighting rigs. The DMX cat's been around for a while. There's a lot of them out there. Most people have used it, but it is included just in case you need to make any changes to fixtures on the fly that do not have a nice NFC chip built into them. You've got the DMX cat there. Now, the radio scan, I want to show you what this looks like because this is pretty amazing. There's spectrum analyzers out there. There's been quite a few of them. You know, none of them are made for our industry. They are made for IT people that are setting up Wi-Fi networks. So we made radio scan. So in this view, this is what our spectrum scan looks like in 2.4. Sorry, I need to move this a little bit. And I've actually been scanning for about an hour now. So this is what has happened at City Theatrical in the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum. So luckily, not a lot. It's a great place for us to be transmitting data because all we really have here is our Wi-Fi. These are our Wi-Fi hotspots that we're seeing here. They get read out, but I'm able to scroll back through my recording and see what has happened. So if I'm doing a site survey, I can check out what's going to be there, what things I might, what problems I might run into, and then when I see this, I can go, okay, so we've got a little more power data here, a little less here, a little less in the low end. So maybe I want to transmit in the low end. So how do I do that? Well, I have this toggle here, Multiverse Show Ids. I open it up. And you can see adaptive, full, low, mid, high, and max. Adaptive covers the entire spectrum as well as full, but low, mid, high, and max are sectioned off. So I can pick low, see it here, and it tells me what my show ID is, 24110. So that means on my transmitter, my nodes, my receivers, my Luster 3s, I set this show ID and they are going to operate in this range of the spectrum. And that means that I'm not going to get interfered with something that is a little bit louder. Now, this all is blue-green, so we probably wouldn't run into any issues, but at any point, this could turn into a big red blob and cause us issues. So we want to stay down here. The other option we have is to go up into our max band section. So we can select max bandwidth here and say, okay, maybe I'll be in 24,140. Now this is for a single universe, as you see here. We can also do dual universe or 5 universes. When we go into larger universe counts, obviously the band of the spectrum is going to get a little bit bigger because there's more data there. This radio scan works in 2.4 gigahertz and 900 megahertz as well. So you can toggle over. And when we're doing these recordings, you can actually make notes as well. So let's say I'm going to make this note. This is lighting. And this is sound. So now I can take a snapshot of this or in the recording and send this around to the production team and say, this is where everyone's working. And maybe we've got camera operating here, and we always want to stay away from camera. We don't want to mess up the monitors or any of the controls that they might be using. So this is how we can operate and make sure we're in a good spectrum. Now, if you're looking at 2.4 and you see all red across the board, that's when we can come over into 900 megahertz. So when you click over, it'll start the initial scan. It'll start building what is happening. And most of the time you'll see there is not a lot of information happening in the 900 megahertz spectrum. Now, we run a lot of 900 here, so we're going to see a little bit more, but overall there should be a lot less. Let's see, I think we're at that 20 minutes mark. So now we might be into the question zone. Is that correct, Ned?
I was just about to say something. Yeah, so that's awesome. This is perfect timing. So we've got about 14 minutes left in the hour. Bring everybody back. If you've got some questions, now is a great time. You can talk to Harrison, you can talk to Jim, talk to me. I'm not an expert in either of these things, but I'm here. If you've got anything you want to bring up, please put it in the chat, and I'll sort of pass it along. Will this be available to rewatch? Yes, this whole video, along with all of our other Zoomin Lumens videos and some additional content, is on our YouTube channel. There's a link to that up in the chat a little bit. So yeah, everything is available. Thank you, Colin. I will talk quieter. So yeah, as additional questions come in, but for right now, if there's anything else that Harrison or Jim, you guys want to cover, you want to touch base on, now's the time.
How do I get one of those studio kits? That's what I want to know. That thing's pretty slick.
You buy them from Barbizon. That's how you get them.
There you go. There you go. Yeah,
I know somebody, right?
Our, dealers, and they carry all of our all of the city theatrical products. It looks like Eric M. Is there any performance differences between working in 900 or 2.4, either in terms of noticeable lag or limited distances? So 900 megahertz is going to be 4 universes instead of the 5 universes of 2.4, but 900 megahertz is going to be at a outdoor range maximum around 2,000 feet, where the 2.4 maxes out around 1,500 feet. So you have less universes in 900, but you can go further. More universes in 2.4, but you can't go as far. Indoors, they're both the same, around 300 feet.
But I think it's probably also worth mentioning, if you're working overseas, there are a lot of restrictions to the 900 megahertz frequency range in Europe, and so you'd probably be required to use the 2.4 if you're going to be in Europe. Yes,
yeah, there's we can't tell you how to use it, but legally you are not allowed to use 900 outside of North America. There's a select few places, but we say North America only, so 2.4 would be the option. We do have CE versions of our transmitters and our receivers that will comply with Europe, Asia, Middle East when it comes to radio spectrum.
Jim, I got a question here about fan noise on fixtures.
See that?
Yep. So is there a structural change? Is there a new design in the Series 3 that addresses?
There is. There's both hardware changes as well as software changes. So hardware change on the Series 3, there's actually 2 fans now, which is probably not what you wanted to hear, but it actually was done for purposes of keeping things quieter. So there's a smaller fan on the CPU so that it cools that on its own, and then there's the larger heatsink fan. So by having 2 different fans, we can control what speeds and where the cooling needs to be. But also, both in the phosphor line as well as these fixtures here, there's now software that gives you fan control. We've always had fan control, but we haven't. We've overridden that fan control if necessary. So if you turned the fan off, but the fixture was overheating, the fan would come back on. That's no longer the case with this software in these fixtures. If you turn the fan off, which you can do, you can set the fan to completely off, or you can just set it to 20% or 30% and just let it run there constantly. It'll hold whatever fan setting you give it, and it will stay there. Now, if the fixture starts to get too warm and you've told it to hold the fan, it will hold the fan and it will power budget the output. So the output will decrease. But if you're looking for acoustically sensitive locations, you can do some testing and find out with the ambient temperatures that you have in your venue how bright can these fixtures be and still keep the fan at the levels that I need it to be at. So we've sort of given you that. There's always going to be that trade-off, brightness versus equals heat with most things. So when you add brightness, you have to still deal with dissipating that heat thermally. But we've given you now the option to be able to control how that's actually done.
Harrison, got a question. Outdoors, what sort of range are you able to achieve with and without a Yagi? I don't know.
Yeah, so our ranges are with the standard omnidirectional antennas. Once you start using a panel or a Yagi antenna, the ranges actually explode quite a lot. We're talking miles on paper. In real world, it depends. It's actually very, very hard to tell what the actual range is going to be because there are so many extenuating circumstances. And yes, a Yagi is a type of antenna. So maybe there's trees and maybe you do a setup in the winter, there's no leaves. You've got great range. You're going for, 35, 4,000 feet with your panel as antennas, everything's great. Then spring comes and it has leaves and leaves are full of water. And now your range is going to be, 150 feet. So it's really hard when we're looking at outdoor ranges. What we always say is we'll send you some demo units. We'll send you some Yagis and some panels and some transmitters and receivers so you can test that range. And it is best to test in the spring or summer so that all the plants are there instead of in the winter, which it's better anyways because we all live in places that are bad winters, so you don't want to be doing outdoor projects in the winter anyways.
And Harrison, so without saying too much, do you expect more manufacturers to begin including multiverse in their fixtures?
Yes.
That's definitely not saying too much.
That wasn't too much. I see there's a couple here. First of all, sort of piggybacking on the fan question, it's asking if it decreases the life of the LED array if you turn the fan to off. It does not. All of our LED fixtures will thermally protect themselves. They will never allow you to damage them thermally. So it will always keep the fixture within the limits specified by the LED manufacturer themselves. And so we will power budget the output and decrease the output if they're getting too warm, but you will not damage anything. And then there was a question about a smaller Fresnel. Yeah, again, if you're paying attention to our launch stuff for the Phosphor Fresnel, we were very clear that this is the 7-inch, this is the medium size. We are doing a 10-inch Fresnel for the Phosphor line, as well as a 5-inch Fresnel for the Phosphor line. We hope to see those before the end of this year. As far as the Desire line, I would love, and since I'm somewhat in charge of some of this, I would love to see the 5-inch make its way to the Desire line as well. The 10-inch in a theatrical application, granted, there may be some venues, but they can always buy the Phosphor version. I think that the 5-inch is turning out to be really, really nice, and I think that we'll have a lot of theatrical and live event applications. And so I do anticipate that we will be able to bring that to the Desire line at some point as well.
Perfect. So we got about 5 more minutes. So folks, there's a couple more questions in the comments, but please just keep putting questions down in the comments. Again, there is a video, I think at this point it's up in the chat a good amount, that is about a little bit more of a deep dive on the new fixtures from ETC. And Harrison, do you want to link some of the videos, the longer format videos that you guys have, or anybody from City want to link some of the longer format videos on Multiverse that are sort of more deep dive, so that when you're done with this, you can just stay right on your computer and keep watching videos, because that's what we all do now. But I see there are a couple more questions, so I'll let you guys talk.
Yeah, I see a question here about, are we looking at a way to receive Multiverse and output DMX? In other words, have the fixture work as a node, basically. We are going to look at that. Yeah, that is not currently implemented. We have to look at our design. I know that City Theatrical has said that the hardware is potentially capable of doing that within the fixture. We need to have some conversations. We actually have some meetings lined up with them. So I can't promise that that's going to happen, but we are going to look and see if we're able to do that. And if I do think that is a valuable feature. So if we can make that work, I would love to see that happen, but it does not currently do that. is an IQ. Yeah, the Gobo accessory slots, all that stuff is the same. And the some of the front accessory slot sizes have changed, and so you may want to just make sure the 26 isn't the same as a 26. It used to be 6.25, now it's 7.5, that sort of thing. But the Gobo slots and all that stuff have stayed the same, so that all the accessories should be able to be made to work. Yes, I would love a 8-color junior as well, but we're always working on new and exciting things. I'm not sure that one might be a little farther out, but there's always exploration of quality changes, but also form factor changes, and we're always looking at that sort of thing as well. It's got to be some. Oh, those are links.
And folks, I will say, if you've got any questions that you're sitting on that you want a little bit more of an in-depth answer for, we will put my information in the comments. We'll put contact at ETC. We'll put a contact at City Theatrical. I hope I'm pointing at the right people on your screen as well. So we'll have email addresses down there. If you come up with a question, it's a little bit more complicated. If you come up with a question in 5 minutes when we're done and you want an answer, email any of us. This is all we do all day long is talk about this stuff. So yeah, we'll get a couple more questions and then we'll get that info in there. But thanks again, everybody, for showing up, and we'll deal with these last few questions.
Megan's, I'm curious about what the advantage is in 9 universes of stuff locked into a specific position. On a TV set, there may be lights stretching the length of full city blocks in and behind buildings. Having all those universes trapped in one place seems like it would lead into range issues. It very well could be. You know, that's one of the things that we find with wireless DMX is it's not a one-size-fits-all situation for all situations. So something like that, it might be more useful to use multiverse nodes as single universe transceivers, and you drop them around where you need them, you know, depending on what the setup looks like. There's also ways to do sort of like a repeater setup where you have one device receive and then another transmit. We usually like to do that where one receives on 2.4, then transmits on 900. So using the nodes to do that is possible. We are also very adamant about helping people lay out more complex situations like this. So the sales and engineering team would put their heads together and figure out how a layout would happen. So we'd be happy to help when bigger things like that happen. Okay, this is a question for Jim. Any chance of a multiverse transmitter built into a new color source console line?
A chance of it, I think so. I mean, that's not my product line, so I can't really speak with any sort of authority on that. But I know that as a whole, ETC is committed to multiverse in our product line going forward. You've obviously seen that in a number of fixtures already. I mentioned earlier up in the chat, somebody was asking about the color source relay that we had previously done in conjunction with City Theatrical. We are in process of updating that to the multiverse protocol as well. There is some limited compatibility across multiverse and show baby stuff. So there's some of that, but we are actually working on making a version of that with full multiverse technology in it. So, you know, some of this is going to be driven by us. Some of this is going to be driven by the customer. So if we start seeing people adapting to this, using it more and more, wanting it, we're putting it in fixtures. People are buying those fixtures. They're wanting more interfaces. That's certainly something that we will continue to look at. And those conversations have obviously already happened internally here as well.
Perfect. So I'm not seeing any more questions. We'll leave the chat open for a little bit longer, but thanks again so much to everybody for showing up. Thanks to ETC, thanks to City Theatrical, thanks to the marketing folks at Barbizon who put this together, Kelsey and Tobin for being behind the scenes and doing all the work. So yeah, we will leave the chat open. We'll be here for a little bit, but thanks to everybody who, of course, my alarm goes off right when I'm talking. Thanks to everybody for coming. And again, we'll have this posted in a little bit on our YouTube channel. And we hope to talk to everybody. And again, hopefully do demos in person before too terribly long. So thanks, everybody. And we'll talk soon.
Megan, can you shoot me an email and we can discuss longer about larger wireless systems? And then there was a really quick one about the SkyPanel 360. So the wireless that's built into SkyPanel is a different protocol, but you can just plug a Multiverse Studio directly into its DMX port and control it, just like you could with a Luster 2 or Luster 1 or any of the other Desire fixtures. You could plug a Studio or a Node directly into it and control it. And the nice thing is all of UTC's products have RDM in them, so you can change any of the settings too. So thank you, Ned and Barbizon. This was great.
Appreciate it.